Welcome to Moon Memos. I'm your host, Ching, and today we have a very special guest, my new friend, Aisha. Aisha is a coach and artist that helps multi-passionate creative visionaries find and start their dream business. Her mission is to get more freedom and wealth in the hands of impact-driven creatives. Tell me about that.
Hello, I am so happy to be here, Moonching. Thanks for having me. Yeah, so I feel like this has kind of been my mission all my life. So growing up, actually, I was already very talented at art, and everyone thought I was going to be an artist. But in my heart of hearts, I was an entrepreneur. And at that time, I couldn't see a
Hmm.
reality where I was an artist and really abundant. I mean, I wasn't surrounded by any artists, really, right? So my inspirations felt very, very, very far away from me. And I didn't really know how to just like combine this business side with my sort of like super creative side. So that part sort of died when I was 12, honestly. I think that's when I gave up
Um,
on visual art. But funnily enough, like
mhm.
it's been the same theme through my whole life. So I actually like entered undergrad as an art student because I was just good at it. And then I immediately switched to business, which is
Wow.
hilarious when I now think about it. Yeah, yeah. And then afterwards, I entered corporate marketing for a long time because it's the most creative job within business, I would say. So that's kind of why I chose that path.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like in the very like I don't know, like matrix, I would say, of corporate life, right? It's like everyone around me is corporate. I don't know what to do outside of corporate. I'm like 24. I'm like I've been in marketing for 4 years. Like I can never escape this until really I started to have a lot of health issues. So that was kind of my awakening because all of a sudden
Mm-hmm.
health became this big thing that I felt like I couldn't move forward in my life until I healed, right? And it's like, just to
Mhm.
be really specific, I had a bunch of digestive issues. So I basically was allergic to like everything. If I ate anything remotely processed, even things like, like rice would make me feel really nauseous and uncomfortable in my body. So I was on this really strict, like raw vegan diet. I tried all kinds of things, all the 3D things, the pills, the supplements, all sorts of strange modalities. But I just like was not able to heal through that for over 3 years. So it became really cemented in my identity. Like I am this person with these health issues. And I legitimately thought that I was never going to heal again. I was like, my goal is to be able to even like eat gluten free bread. Like I'd be so happy if I could do that. Right. Or I'd be so happy if I could eat like vegetarian and
Mhm.
not vegan, not raw vegan. So it was
Right.
that.
Well,
Yeah.
up till then, you said you were already working 4 years in the field, in the industry.
I was doing
Yeah.
growth marketing in tech. So that was like
Okay.
my career path. Yeah.
And were you already experiencing lots of success at this point?
You know, it's so funny because I never had any imposter syndrome in that job and it was really easy for me. But at the same time, I knew I was capped because I would see my bosses and just be like, I do not want their life. No, nothing about this is exciting for me. So, I got promoted to like marketing manager, but I knew beyond that, like I would never become a director and never become like a CMO, like, the ultimate, I suppose, path for marketing, just because I knew that level of like the payoff of the work versus like the reward was, I couldn't see it. It wasn't for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I ask because I'm trying to judge like how much responsibility you had at this point, how much
Mm,
stress, what led to all these health issues.
yeah.
So I kind of
Uh-huh.
figured, actually the more successful someone is, more likely because they have more responsibility and more stress. And so on the outside,
Mm,
it looks good because they're achieving, but
yeah.
on the inside, it's getting worse because they have all this stuff.
Yeah, so I actually know the root reason because I've thought about this, right? And the
Ooh.
funny thing is, because I didn't actually in the very beginning, people asked me, like, I saw a doctor and they were like, are you stressed? And, my mom has a lot of doctor friends. She studied medicine in China. So she asked her friends and they were like, are you stressed? But it's funny because I didn't have work stress. And the normal definition of stress, I feel like, is very related to work. So because I didn't have work stress, I thought I wasn't stressed, but I was stressed emotionally in other ways. So at the
Yeah.
time, I was going through a really difficult relationship. So there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of jealousy, there's a lot of heartbreak. That was stressful. There also in my career in general, like I was, looking for a new job. So there's stress in that sense, which I like didn't
Mm-hmm.
really relate to necessarily work stress because I wasn't doing a lot per se, but it was the unknown. So that was stressful. So all
Mm-hmm.
of those types of stressors that people don't talk about, right? Like the sadness, the anger, the grief, like that was what triggered all the health problems. So
Mm.
I didn't realize that until I learned about like what stress actually is and like what the full range of emotions are and how that can impact you.
So you tried everything you could think of, and then you probably researched and tried more stuff, and you're on a super restrictive diet, which is probably, I'm making assumption here, but not making you happy because you probably enjoy good food. Yeah, well, so where did you go from there?
Yeah, so you are correct. I was like, this is not the way I want to live life. Like, I did like 12 cleanses in 1 year, and these cleanses are long, right? They're like 10 days long. So it was a very grueling process, and it was just sad when I was with my family. I couldn't eat what they were eating. Like, I had to like cook my own meals and all that. And now, of course, I'm like grateful because now I know how to cook. I know how to like look at ingredients and shop and all that, and that's a blessing. But yes, going through it was very hard. So basically, I found this is during this time period that I found Dr. Joe's work. So he talks about energy and emotions and all that kind of stuff. And I
Mhm.
essentially, the moment I found his work, I was introduced to his work and I started reading his book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. I knew it was the thing that was
Mhm.
going to heal me. I just because like it was the one thing that I had not considered, right? I hadn't considered the emotional, like the mental, emotional, physiological aspect. And then even
Mhm.
beyond that, what I was learning from them, the energetic aspect, which is
Mhm.
like, when we talk about, the quantum field and all that kind of stuff, it's like that was mind blowing to me. So
Mhm.
from that point, I go super deep into his work. I basically have like the spiritual awakening moment where I'm like introduced to all these teachings, right? Everything about the mind. And I'm like, holy shit, this is the way I am, not just with my health, my personality, the way I see other aspects of my life too, relationships, money, all the things, career. So after applying his work, I heal fully within 6 months, which to me is an absolute miracle because before that point, I couldn't even see myself healing like 20%, right? Again, would have
Mhm.
been really happy if I could even eat gluten-free bread without feeling like really nauseous and sick. Now I'm eating fucking tacos in Mexico. I'm like washing raw salad leaves like tap water in Mexico. It's like I'm fine. Like this kind of it's like really it's like I became even healthier than I was before because I realized this is all fear based. It is all fear based. Like your immune system responds to fear. So therefore, when I removed that fear, when I was intentionally tuning in to, all kinds of things, strength, gratitude, feeling good, wholeness, then it was like nothing could touch me. So yeah,
Not even tacos.
not even street tacos.
Huh.
Yeah. So that really brought me to a point where I was like, because for 3.5 years, right, my health was the biggest thing in the way of everything else. It was my number one priority
Yeah.
this whole time. And now that this problem has been resolved, I was like, oh shit, now I have to be so real with myself. Oh my gosh, I can create my reality. Like, this miracle occurred to me in health. I have to be real with myself and understand that actually there's so much more possible for my career, right? And what's possible there.
You said 6 months. So was that like you had this kind of awakening? Maybe it's kind of like an epiphany. So that's in your mind, like intellectually, you got it, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
now, like from what I know about Dr. Joe's work, like so now you start applying it to life. You start living it. You start practicing because I mean, I can't imagine somebody
mm-hmm,
being able to do it overnight, but like every morning
mm-hmm,
you wake up and you start changing your the first thoughts, right?
mm-hmm,
Like
yeah,
stuff like this. Is that what was happening? And like, did your symptoms go away, like tapered in those 6 months,
mm-hmm.
or were they pretty sudden too, just because you had such a sudden change of mindset?
Yeah, this is a really good question. When I was like, oh, this is it, I'm all in, I immersed myself in the information. I think this is really important for in any aspect of life, right? So for me, it was like I removed all the TV, all the Netflix. I started watching his trainings, started reading his books, started watching testimonials every single day, right? I started doing the
Uh-huh.
meditations every single day. Within, I would want to say within a month, I built up. I went from not meditating longer than 5 minutes my whole entire life to meditating like 3 hours a day within a month, right?
Whoa. Wait,
Yeah.
consecutively?
No, I
Wow.
would not consecutive. I would break it up. Like I would do like a
Okay.
morning,
But you would
an
do like,
afternoon. Yeah.
wow. But still,
But
that's a lot. That's really
yeah,
impressive.
I was hardcore dedicated. Like it was, yeah, it wasn't like a snap. Just read the book and then I'm here. No, there was a hardcore application, hardcore, and it's like, it wasn't just. I think the meditation's so important, but I think the reason I healed so fast is because I also changed other things in my life. Right, I like stopped going to all the parties. I stopped hanging out with some of the people in my life that were, like the familiar environment that weren't really supportive to me. That those kinds of
Mm-hmm.
things too. I set stronger boundaries around, hey, this is when I'm gonna meditate. Like I'm not gonna go hang out with you guys at this time. I set aside that time for myself because it was really, really important to me. And I knew that I did have to be consistent with the meditations in order to heal. So I did that. I did his work on my own for like 3 months, and
Mm-hmm.
immediately I was like, I need to get myself to retreat. I was like, I want to heal fast. I'm gonna get myself to retreat. And of course, the next retreat is in Turkey, and it's like a week before my sister's wedding. And this is like 2021, y'all. So we're still in the pandemic. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to Turkey by myself, and it'll be fine. And of course, my family's like, "Are you gonna get like what are you doing in Turkey? A
It
meditation
must have been
retreat?"
like,
Yeah, they're like, like COVID's still happening. It was a whole thing. But I was like, no, I don't care. I'm going. And at this point, I already saw enough results in my life. Like I was able to like eat meat again, which I hadn't been able to eat for like over a year and a half. I was able to eat like,
mm-hmm.
certain like cleaner foods again, like rice I was able to eat again. I was able to really expand my diet. But there were still but the symptoms definitely were not totally gone. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of stuff that I would eat. Like if I ate at a restaurant, I would still feel sick. So, and
Yeah.
I still wasn't eating like dairy, bread, all that kind of gluten, all that kind of stuff. I get myself to retreat. And I think the biggest thing that I learned from retreat is truly how to change my energy. I thought I was changing my energy before, but when I got there, I was like, oh, this is how I switch from like in my current state to like a truly elevated state, right? Of like more love, like more gratitude, more like excitement for life, and really learning that process and being in a totally, totally new environment. I mean, this is also when I like, I changed my name. Right? I changed the way I introduced myself. I really was like, I'm going to be a whole new personality here. And the whole concept, that Dr. Joe teaches is that if you want to change your personal reality, you have to change your personality. So
Mm-hmm.
there, I felt like I made that big switch. And I had a moment during a meditation where I was like, I just knew that I was going to be healed. Like I knew that I was healed in the quantum, and that like basically I didn't need to think about health anymore. But I will
Well,
say,
I gotta rewind because what did you change your name from?
yeah,
So
so
this is the changed name, right? Like the
yes, I is the changed name, which is my Chinese name, but I was going by Amy before, which is my like legal American name. Yeah.
oh, this is really um sorry to interrupt, but okay, so when I immigrated at age 10, I was given an English name. My mom
Mm.
said I chose it, but I didn't speak English at the time. How did I choose it? I
Mhm.
think I opened up, she gave me a book and I chose one of the first names I see because it was
Mhm.
Alice. So
Mm.
I was Alice Wu until 1999. After I graduated from college, I decided to change it and I went all the way. Like I went to court.
Whoa.
Moonching was my middle name on the passport, And it was actually on my social security card without the Alice, but it was spelled in a horrible, horrible way. It doesn't sound like, if you looked at it, it wouldn't look anything remotely close to how it sounds. So I
Whoa.
was like, well, I'm going to court to change it. I might as well spell it the way I want. So,
Yeah.
if we went with the pinging the way they would do it, it wouldn't look like
Mm,
this, but I decided this is how I want it to look. So I actually had the chance to spell it the way I want.
wow.
But wow, this
God.
is such
I love
synchronicity
that.
because I
Yeah.
don't know anyone else who did that.
That's incredible. I don't think I do either, with the Chinese name switch too. That's so cool.
Yeah, because it was what we were given when we were born. And at home, I was, even after immigrating, at home, I was still, you know, munching, or actually xiaoqing,
Mm,
which means little ching. But outside of home, I was this English name, so it was a really identity crisis. I just
yeah.
never thought about it until then, and I was like, screw this. And
Yeah.
actually, somebody tried to look me up back then when we still had phone books, and there were like five Alice Wu's in the phone book, and she said she called every single one and found me. I was the last one. I was like, why would I want to be one of five when I know nobody has my Chinese
Yeah.
name? So
That's incredible. Yeah. I definitely felt the same
okay,
because like
so wow.
yeah, cuz like I in Chinese means love, and I was just like so resonant with that. The funny thing is though, I
Mm-hmm.
realized that the origin of Amy is a French word that means beloved, like like
Oh.
amour, like love, like kind of close to
Mm-hmm.
that. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh wow, both my
Yeah.
names mean love, like there's no separation here. So that was a really nice thing to discover. But for me, I was also kind of like my artist name, right? Because I was at that point during the pandemic, I was also I started illustrating again. It was something I really loved, and I was also thinking like, what's my artist identity? So of course, like my Chinese name, so beautiful, like that felt perfect, and I really felt like when I started introducing myself as I at that retreat, it was two declarations. Like one, I am a different person, and two, I am this like creative artist, like independent, entrepreneurial, artistic individual that I want to
Mm.
embrace. Yeah.
So that was the personal reality shift that you made. What would you say was one of the bigger differences before? Like, what were you like before?
Yeah. I would say I was just more, especially with the health. I would say I constantly felt anxious and lack about my health. I was constantly thinking about the next meal. How would it make me feel? Just like frantic about my health.
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
really, I had to, and in turn, that made me a very grumpy person to be around, or at least like not the level I am right now. Like I was just not able to hold space for anyone because I was so fixated on how I was feeling in my body and my health and all that kind of stuff. So the biggest thing that I really had to change is cutting off this like I can't eat this. I can't, like, I have this condition, boohoo me. Like, why don't you guys understand this? Like, really, like, the victim
Mm.
mentality. Because, and, it's funny, even at the very beginning, my mom and her friends try to, like, ask me if it's stress, like, what's happening in my life. And already then I was in the victim mentality of, like, you guys don't understand. Like, I'm so not receptive to information, right? To solutions, because it's just, like, so in all my emotions. And then, of course, the symptoms that have physically manifested from that. Yeah, so that was the biggest thing I really had to flip. I had to go from like, talking about my health, my diet, oh, I can't eat this, blah, 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 that. I'm scared of this, I'm scared of that. I can't travel. All this stuff, I just had to stop talking about. I had to remove everything that was not wholeness in my definition. And I had to start thinking, feeling, acting as a person who was whole, who was healthy, right? Who, like, if I had full health, like, how would I be in my life? I'd be so happy and grateful, right? I'd be like
Mm-hmm.
so light in my
Mm-hmm.
life. Yeah. So that was the biggest shift. And I think it is interesting because for that specifically, a lot of it is internally how I felt, right? A lot of
Mm-hmm.
this I wasn't expressing necessarily outwards, but it was internally, that anxiousness I felt with my health, with my digestion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And it's it's cyclical, and it's like kind of it's almost like a catch-22, because the more you want to fix it, the more anxious, because you don't have a solution. So it's like, and there's so the next thing you're going to put in your mouth is always going to be there. So you're kind of stuck thinking about the next moment with no solution, only like a sense of almost like doom, because it's like you're setting your body up to react to it because you're so tense,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was the realization I had. I was like, oh my gosh. I didn't even, first of all, I didn't even realize I was feeling anxious, right? This is how unconscious, subconscious all these patterns are. Once
Yeah.
I started
Yeah.
realizing, I was like, I am literally tightening up my stomach before every single meal from this anxiousness. No wonder my body's not digesting these things, right? It's an unsafe environment for digestion. It's an unsafe environment for healing. So that was a big moment for me of like, whoa, like these thoughts I'm having are creating a very physical reaction in my body. And then of course, it's the unnatural thing, right? It's the supernatural thing to do the opposite, which is like feel good no matter what is happening, right? Which is why this work
Mhm.
is like, it's difficult, but it's like so powerful, you know?
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
you are doing things that most people would not do. Most people would not be like, I'm not going to talk about the conditions in my life. I'm not going to complain about the things. I'm actually going to stay totally focused on the future that I want. I'm actually going to be grateful for what I have instead of feel lack for what I don't. Like, this is not normal. But also, this is the state of being that will get you results in any area of your life, not just health, right? As we know,
Right.
also in career and business and all the things, like, you can't be normal if you want to be part of the percentage of people who do heal, who are successful, who do make things happen. Yeah.
Yeah, and what you said about kind of keeping it inside, not expressing it, reminds me of something I just read today. This person I actually really like, she said something like, don't you want to live life like like your heart's on fire instead of a comfortable life?
Mm-hmm.
And at first that sounded perfect, but then I was like, you know what? I don't think actually that there is that comfortable life, because I think most people, they might not do that, take the risk, make the leap, make a huge change. They might not do that like heart on fire kind of life. They might not start going in that direction because they're scared, or they think they can't, whatever is holding them back. But because they're not, it doesn't mean they're comfortable. It doesn't mean they're just like, oh, okay, I'm just going to be like, I'm just lounging all the time and I'm fine with my life and all my relationships and all the aspects. They're actually kind of in a holding pattern, and I
Mm-hmm.
think it's actually uncomfortable. But I think most people lie to themselves and say and pretend that's actually comfortable just so they don't have to do anything about it.
Yes,
So maybe
exactly.
that's the tiny comfortable part, like, okay, if I just don't do anything, nothing will change. But that's a lie, because nothing stays the same. So you
Yeah.
actually have to exert so much energy to keep it the same, to like keep it at this. You have
Mm-hmm.
to hold the holding
Mm-hmm.
pattern. So there is no comfort. There is no, just like the lie of having security at a full-time job,
Mm-hmm.
like there is no such thing anymore. I mean, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
generations ago in Japan, I don't know. uh, I, I still remember my cousins who lived in LA. They went to our school, they became illustrators or animators, and they were working for this company for a really long time. And then the company got bought and they were fired. They were let go after like a really, decades of being in the same,
Yeah.
right? They had to move to Canada to get another
Wow.
job. It's like, where's the security in that?
Yes. Oh my God.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. So the first point you brought up, I think, is so good. That's like what I see in a lot of people is that
Mm-hmm.
when they're scared of the worst case scenario, like the fear of actually going for the thing, they're in this place where they have already created their worst case scenario, right? So a lot of people, like the worst case scenario, honestly, is that you go back to a 9 to 5, right? Or you go back to your day job. Guess what? You're already in your day job. You're already in your worst case scenario. Like, how much of
Right,
a mind
right.
fuck is that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you guys, like, in your fear of like trying not to like disappoint yourself by like mistakes or failure, you have already disappointed yourself by not going for it. So you actually have nothing to lose. Like, this is the mindset shift I think that I help people make. And it's also acknowledging and seeing within yourself, feeling bad for yourself, feeling in victimhood is so addicting. It really is. Like, there's literally a
It,
chemical reaction, right? And this is when we're getting back to the science, to the Dr. Joe stuff. It's like, there is a biological reaction when you have a thought and it releases a chemical and you feel bad for yourself, right? And you're breaking that pattern. And I
mm-hmm.
love, oh God, there's this book that I forgot the name of, but it's about chronic pain, right? And he talks about this rat experiment, how these rats, they like basically the rats would push a button and they get a pellet of food, right? And then they would remove the reward. So then the button was there, but they wouldn't get the food. And right before that behavior died, like those rats would go crazy smashing that button, trying to do the same thing, trying to get that food, before finally they were like, okay, this is not fucking working. Right? So this is mind blowing for me because in that book, he was saying pain is the same way, chronic pain is the same way. Before it totally goes away, there can be a flare up because it's a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pattern trying to hold on to you, keep you in the same place, and go like, let me get one more
Mm-hmm.
shot. Let me get one more shot at them before I totally go away and there's a new pattern
And
or new
just
habit.
keeping all the hormones, enzymes, whatever other chemicals, keeping that the same. Because,
Yeah.
well, actually, it does make sense because our ego wants our everything in life to be predictable.
Yeah.
So if there is going to be a big change, like a lot less pain, there's going to be a different chemical reaction in there and it wants to keep it the same. It's
Yeah.
just trying to do its job. And so yeah,
Exactly.
definitely we have to have compassion for the old us that didn't know, but
Hmm.
once you see it, once you realize that's what's happening,
Yeah.
yeah, then it's like, of course.
This is also the period of time that's hardest to hold the vision, right? Because you're like, is this working or is this not working? And I think it's the same in health. It's the same in success careers. And that's why people say all these things like, if you just went 2 steps further, that's where your success is. Or like, it was like the Hail Mary is like my final shot that got me through, right? It was like the last straw. Like all these things is because like there's an old pattern dying, right? There's the universe, and now it's like more spiritual. It's like the universe are saying, do you really feel worthy of this? Like, do you really want this manifestation? Do you really want this to happen? Because if you do, no matter how much it doesn't make sense, or no matter how bad it gets, or if the symptoms come back, or whatever it is, you're going to still hold that vision for yourself. You're going to
Hmm.
still hold that frequency for yourself. So for me, that was just a really helpful analogy in biology, right? Because even with the health, I did have an experience of, the symptoms coming back. So after that retreat, which on that retreat, by the way, I ate gluten for the first time in 3 years, I ate dairy for the first time in 3 years, felt great after both, right? When I came back, I was sick for like basically a week, fever, throwing up, all kinds of things.
Upgrade.
Yeah, an upgrade. And at the same time, I did upgrade, but I wasn't able to eat as much as as many of the things I could at that retreat. So that was really discouraging for me because it was like I just took like 5 steps forward and then, which is amazing, right? Of course, this is again mindset, but I took like 1 or 2 steps back. So I think it would have been easy for me or anyone at that moment to say like, oh, this isn't working. I'm a failure. Why am I even doing this? But I was still persistent with the daily action, right? With the meditation, with changing my mind, with changing my thoughts, getting myself in a new environment, right? Understanding this work more. And that's why within the next 3 months, I fully healed. So it's being able to hold and keep that vision, whether it's for your health, whether it's for your career, like whether it's for anything else.
Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
I mean, that definitely was that week when you were sick is definitely not a step back. It was more like, your body is just adjusting to all that huge change at the retreat, I mean, how much energy was there? My friend actually
Yeah.
just described it to me, because at first she was a bit bored because he was kind of saying the same things that she already did in the online work that we
Mm-hmm.
had access to. But then as soon as he started the group meditations, she was like, wow. She said her words were, I don't know where I went. And I can just imagine, because a few years ago I was in a group meditation for the first time, never did it before in a live setting. No, okay. Before that I did a Chan Buddhism retreat when I was still in grad school, but it was different because that one was very formal, and we were all very, very much beginners, so it was like a lot of instruction. But in 2018, I was at a retreat in the Omega Institute, and I was there by accident almost. There were over 100 women, and for the first time, in my life, when she said, "Okay, let's all sit and start meditating," and it was guided. So I never experienced either of those before. But yeah, I thought to myself, there's no way anything can happen because it's so distracting. Like there's so many people here. They're all strangers. And I never even been to this place. The whole location is unfamiliar. But actually, that was the most like clear and intense visions and downloads I had in my life.
Wow. Yeah, just being
So
in
I
a group,
imagine
I think.
you after that retreat, like also, coming from a faraway country,
Hmm.
eating stuff you haven't eaten in years. When you came back, it must have been, your body must have been like, okay, I need 5 days to.
Yes,
You can't do
exactly.
anything.
Nope.
I'm
It
gonna
was
make
like,
it so you can get out of bed because I need this.
yeah, it's like we gotta purge, we gotta get rid of all the old stuff. Yeah. And and when you're in it, like looking back, like Steve Jobs, right? All the dots connect looking backwards. Looking back, I'm like, my whole fucking life makes sense. Going through it is tough. Going through it is like, why me, why me, why me? So now that I haven't had enough experiences like this, where I'm like, oh, looking back, this all makes sense. This is perfect. The way it unfolded is perfect. Now I have a deeper level of trust. But I think for those listening who maybe haven't had as many of those experiences, or like you're starting their transformation journey, like it will all make sense in the future. Right. And I see this so often with my clients now. They're like, they feel this greatness within them. Right. They're like, oh, I know that like I'm a visionary. I'm meant to create something unlike anyone else. Like I know I'm feeling so initiated by, my fears right now. And I just, because I'm on the other side, and of course, like I'm on my own journey too, but because I'm just like a few steps ahead of them, I'm like, this is gonna become your greatest asset. Like everything you're going through right now with like, oh my gosh, like it sucks. I don't have like the structure, like I have to create something new. Everything about this is going to be your greatest asset in the future. You just can't see all the dots right now, right? It's like no one does. That's what being in the unknown is. That's what being a visionary, that's what being a creative is. It is creating something in a totally new way that no one has ever seen before. That's the nature of it. And that's also what your soul is craving.
So, how was your sister's wedding?
It was great. I mean, it's so funny because I think I was really hard on myself back then because I had a really clear vision of me eating cake at my sister's wedding. Right? I wanted to eat cake at my sister's wedding. I did eat cake at my sister's wedding. I didn't feel as good as I wanted to. I will say that. So that was the part that like kind of got me down. But
Mhm.
I recovered before then. It was funny because they were like, did you get COVID? Right? It's like, of course you got sick. And I'm like, guys, don't worry, it's a biological upgrade. And they're like not understanding. But I knew deep down within my heart I didn't have COVID. Like this was not COVID symptoms, first of all, but I just knew. Yeah, so it was great. I was like, and it's so easy to be worried beforehand. But I think also this is what generates the greatest change. It's like you go for it anyways, right? You ask yourself,
Yeah.
what is it that I really desire? Who am I on the other side of this decision? Who am I on the before if I don't make this decision? And for me, it was like I knew the version of myself that I want to be was after going to the retreat, not being afraid or holding off or waiting or any of those things.
Yeah, I definitely think when you hear some kind of calling, it's very real. And also, I don't know where we got this idea that there is some kind of perfect moment. You can somehow prepare and get yourself to a perfect moment to do anything, like to have a child, to change jobs, whatever. Like, I mean, I really think now courage means you just take the first step, even when you're really scared. I mean, literally, it's like going on one of those scary bridges in Bali, like
Yeah.
it's really scary, it's shaking, and it's really narrow, and there's people behind you, and there's people in front. But you want to go, so you just take that step, even feeling like super wobbly. Where do we get this idea that there's a moment when you're like, okay, I'm totally full of courage and I don't shake at all, and I'm gonna be able to like run across this thing?
Yeah.
Do
Yeah. And this
people
is like,
actually have that and then they go and then they go? I mean, are they like, in their 70s by then? It's like,
yeah. So I feel like this is why the model of creation, right, is very reverse for people, because it's like you be the person and then you do the thing and then you have the result. Versus most people are like,
right.
oh, I need to wait to have this evidence before I can claim this, I can claim that, XYZ. And often what I tell my clients often is like, your purpose is going to be your greatest fucking initiation. Because for me, coaching was that one thing I was terrified to do. I never didn't feel qualified for. Right. It was this thing I was like, fuck, am I really being called to do this? And like when I started, I was coaching people on finding their purpose led dream career. And I had just found that for myself, and it was coaching like 2 months ago, right? So it was this crazy thing where, like, in my soul, I knew I had to do this, but nothing on the surface made sense. Like, I had zero education or background or training in this, right? Professionally. No one was asking me to coach someone, right? Like, I was ditching all my other projects and a business I was working on for over a year to pursue this new thing. I was running out of money. Like all these factors that made it something that didn't make sense. And yet, I learned enough, right, about what I truly wanted, my inner alignment through all this experimentation the last 3 years. I was like, this is the moment I either choose that I'm enough and I'm going to do this even though I'm fucking terrified, or I'm going to wait another year, another 2 years, another 3 years, and I'm going to have to make the same choice. So I can make this choice now and get myself, ahead of like my game, or I can just wait and delay this further and further, because I had this moment where I was like, oh, I know this is what I want to do. I know this is going to be the way that I create my dream
Mm-hmm.
life. I know that this is like where my true gifts and skills are. So yeah, it will fucking initiate you. Like none of this was easy for me. In fact, like I am literally afraid at least once a day, if not more. And if I'm not, I'm like, this is not my growth edge, right? And I'm constantly changing. I think this is the other thing. It's like the only constant for abundant, happy, successful people is change. This is the identity shift you got to make. That's the only constant.
I actually, like I was saying before, I actually think that is true for every moment of every living being on this planet, because I think people don't realize how much energy they are exerting to keep things. They can't even keep things the same. It's an illusion. It's like a
Yes.
superficial way of making it seem like it's the same, but
Yeah.
it's not. And you actually have to exert so much energy to make it that way. So,
So true.
I mean, just take one simple fact. We are getting older every moment. You
There
cannot
we
stop
go.
that, right?
Yeah,
That's why
time.
anything that says anti-aging is essentially a lie, because you cannot anti it. What we really want is to be doing it well, like to be doing it with balance and joy and vitality. But you can't, and you don't want to. Why would you want to be stuck in the same moment, right?
Hmm.
Like I said,
Yeah.
like maybe you're under the illusion that it's comfortable, but there's no way it's comfortable,
Yeah.
because it's just against the natural way of how life works.
Yeah, totally. And I think the way that people try to make it comfortable is through numbing activity, right? TV, scrolling. It's like
Exactly.
they don't know how to deal with the emotion, which I didn't know either. Before I really like dove deep into especially like, subconscious rewiring, also shadow work. So like really facing my fears and my shame and my guilt and all that. I also didn't know how to deal with the negative. And I think especially in your purpose, in your career, and putting yourself out there, a lot of that comes up, right? So for me, health was actually a lot easier than career and like business and all that kind of stuff, because I really just had to go within and change things. Well, when you want to have this, when you want to, create stuff, create external abundance, it's like, oh, now we have to go out in the world and put stuff out there and share. And that is super triggering for a lot of people. So I was suddenly like, wow,
Were
I need
you
to
also,
expand.
or
Was I also triggered? Oh yeah, of course.
oh yeah,
Yeah, when I first shared about my coaching business on my personal Instagram, it literally took me an entire week to build up the courage. And afterwards, I felt like sick to my stomach with nerves and all the thoughts of the
wow,
ego. Yeah, it was like, oh my God, like people are going to think you're fucking crazy. Like, who do you think you are? This person's going to judge you. That person's going to judge you. Like, people are going to like think you're crazy. Like, people are think you're selfish. Like, that like you're a fraud. All like literally, I've had every single one of those thoughts. Truly, every single one of those thoughts. And then guess what? I was like, what I want
still
is
here,
beyond that. I'm
yeah.
still alive. I think what really helped me, honestly, is like I've hit my rock bottom already. Okay. Like I was a starving artist living at my parents' house. When that happened, I was like, this isn't that bad, actually. I was like, I'm still alive. It was almost like this funny thing of like, oh, was this what I was avoiding when I was like in this mind sucking, soul draining corporate job? Like, was this really what I was avoiding? So it became this like laughing point for me of like, okay, I've hit my rock bottom. Like, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
So, when I face those fears, it's like, I already know what the worst thing is. If I get totally rejected, if this doesn't work out, if the launch fails, if the business doesn't work, I already know it's on the other side. It's not that bad. So I'm going to go for it. Because the only other alternative now, right, for me, and in this point in my life where career is now my priority, either I make my business successful or I go back to a 9 to 5. Like, that's all there is in career. Like it's that simple. It's that simple. I like to make it that simple. So what are you going to choose? Right. For me, I had to get so real with myself because for a long time I was in the world of like, I just need to feel grateful. Like I just need to tune into the energy and like everything's going to magically fall into place for me. And then once I got serious, I was like, okay, this is not how abundant people are acting. Abundant people, they go for it. They put themselves out there, right? They lead. They're willing to face criticism. They're willing to face failure. And then I realized like what I want to do is build a freedom-based online business, which means I have to put myself out there in front of my family, my friends, and the public. So even though I felt sick to my stomach, I did it again. And this time it took 3 days for me to build up the courage. And then I felt sick to my stomach only one day after. And then the next time I did it, it took me 1 day to build up the courage. And I felt relatively okay after. Still a lot of thoughts, right? Still a lot of like, oh my God, what are they gonna think of me? And then I've been doing that probably over 100 times now. Now it's automatic for me. Now there's no fear. Now there's no courage to build up. I just do it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the reverse model. Yeah. So a lot of people think like, oh, I need to feel totally good in my body and confident before I can push that post out to the I need to have the results, right? I need to see in my bank account that I'm successful before I can like say that I'm like a coach. No. Nope. That's not how it happens. You do it before any of those things. You do it when you do feel afraid. And that's how you're going to do this quantum leap everyone talks about, right? It's not staying in your comfort zone. It's doing things in the state of your future self who already has all those things. And of course, for your present self, it's very, very edgy.
Well, that was pretty perfect. The only thing I wanted to say before we end is that I just find it so interesting that it's your stomach who reacts first to everything.
Yes.
We're all the same, but we all have, I don't even want to call it like I used to call it the weaker system, but I don't even know if that's it. I think maybe it's more clearly related to our types, like in either in human design or like the Chinese birth chart? Do you know? It's like which element, you have more in your body. I mean, in your which element, which energy is more predominant in your constitution. By the way, are you a generator?
I am indeed a generator. I'm a 6-2 generator.
I'm a 3-6. Yep, I can recognize them now.
Yeah, yeah. The sacral, the stomach, like the gut react is so real. So real.
I feel like yours is like super clear with your stomach. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so grateful for it actually. Like I really feel like my body and all my health issues have accelerated my entire path because the moment I'm off it, the moment I'm misaligned, my body will tell me immediately. Like it's
Yeah.
actually
And now you
insanely
listen.
crazy. And
Now
now I
you really
listen.
listen. Yeah.
I
No,
listen.
actually, I am a little jealous because, yeah, to have it that clear and also so immediate, it's
Hmm.
like actually you suffer a lot less because you're not
Yeah.
indecisive.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just
Yeah.
have to listen.
Yeah, and it was like my greatest vice before, right? It's like, why is my body so sensitive? Why can't it just like be the way I
Hmm.
want it to be? And now I'm like, oh, it's because the universe wants me to get my desires. Like total switch there.
And to just listen instead of treat it like it should be the way you want it to be, doing whatever the hell you want to it. Like, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like you
Flooding it with all these emotions, not expressing, like, I mean, that's like, it's like as if you treat your car poorly. Like, if you don't give it oil, if you don't ever, fix it, and like, yeah.
yeah. And the ego will think it knows what is best for you and it doesn't.
Hmm.
I think that's what it is also. Like your body and your intelligence within knows way better than what the ego and the mind and conditioning, societal
Yeah.
conditioning
Yeah.
can. Yeah.
Yeah. This mastermind I'm in, the teacher says, which I really prefer than the typical, like, that we have to, like, kill our ego or we have to get rid of it. First of all, it's impossible to get rid of it. And he says that the ego wants to be held, meaning loved, more than it wants to be killed. It's like
Mm,
if we actually treat it with the understanding that it has a very specific job and role,
mm,
then we'll just be like, okay, thanks for the advice, but I'm not gonna do that right now. I know
yeah.
you just want the best for me and you're just trying to make it safe and predict the future, but nobody can predict the future, so I'm just gonna try this.
Yeah. I love that. And
Yeah,
I was,
because instead of like thinking you're gonna kill it or like shut it up, I think that's resistance and that's gonna
yeah.
make it even louder.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is part of like the spiritual bypass that we talked last week is that like yeah, I want the
Okay.
negative, I want the fear to be totally gone. I want the negative emotions to be away. I don't want to feel this, I want to feel
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah,
That
cuz
really, now I get it.
yeah,
Okay.
cuz what you're saying is you don't want to be human anymore, right? That's not what wholeness is. Wholeness
Exactly.
is every spectrum on the emotion. So,
Yeah, I want
some
to cherry pick how being human is.
yes.
I don't want the stuff I don't want.
Yes, and a lot of my clients are like, "Oh, like when will this emotion totally go away? Like when will I not feel this anymore?" I'm like, "That's resistance." First of all, it will dissipate, but only when you stop resisting, right? And you start
Yeah.
to hold and we are allowed to feel human. And I think, our society, like our patriarchal like, hustle, this like hardness society teaches you not to do that. It's like just push through, just ignore all your emotions. When in fact a lot of us are more effective when we allow ourselves to feel like when I went through all the scary posting, putting myself out there, I allowed myself to feel sick to my stomach. I allowed myself to feel all the emotions and then be like I like allowed myself to almost like revel in that emotion, like wow, this is crazy, this is so scary.
And feel that part of mine too.
Yeah, I can feel it all right and know that it's normal. It's okay. I can love those parts of myself back into life. The worst case scenario isn't true. And I'm going to choose to do it again. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Even more perfect.
I know so many things to talk about for sure.
Yeah. Well, then I guess we'll be each other's guests again.
Yes. Oh my gosh. To be continued.
To be continued. Thank you, I.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me, Moonching.
So then, until next time.
Until next time. Bye.
Bye, everybody.